Chris Murray. He joins us. He's with the Nevada Sportsnet. He's been on with us before to help us understand Nevada basketball. But Chris joins us now to understand some Nevada football. Maybe we'll get some basketball questions in there as well. Chris, thanks for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hey, this Wolfpack team, looking at them, it's been a really interesting season watching them from afar. Last year, they looked like this was a team that was making improvements. They became more explosive. They were a pretty dangerous team at times. This year, there's been some times where that has carried over, and it looks like they've have that ability to be explosive and be exciting, but they've also had some games where they've just kind of struggled and stagnated. They made a quarterback change last week, seemed to be a pretty good move. Where will you assess this Nevada Wolfpack team now? It's the halfway point for them in their season.
Yeah, I think we're going to learn a lot more about them over the next couple of weeks. I mean, they go to Utah State, they go to Wyoming. They're going to play some better competition. I mean, they're really happy with the record of 4-2. That includes a win over Purdue to open the season. But Nevada was +5 in the turnover margin in that game. So it was maybe a little bit fortunate to win that one. And the other 3 wins are against Weber State, which is an FCS school, San Jose State, which has obviously struggled the last couple of years, although it is better this season, and then UTEP, which is probably the worst FCS team in the nation. So the 4-2 record might be a little bit misleading, especially when you look at what happened in the 2 losses, 71-point loss to Oregon, a 51-point home loss to Hawaii. So I think they are still searching for their identity a little bit. They are in a pretty good position that if they improve their level of play, I think the West Division is wide open. And I do think that they have found more answers at quarterback. They've started 3 different quarterbacks in their first 6 games. You mentioned the change before the San Jose State game. Malik Henry, a former Florida State player, a 4-star recruit coming out of high school, a really talented kid who's had some issues with coaches and things of that nature. He was on Last Chance U, the documentary on Netflix, and basically ended up getting kicked out of that school. But it seems like he's gotten things together a little bit better. And against San Jose State, I mean, he was really good. Threw for 352 yards. Was able to get the ball down the field a lot better. He had a 75-yard touchdown pass. He had another 55-yard pass. Definitely added a lot of explosion to the Wolfpack offense. Had a touchdown. Did throw 2 interceptions, so I made a couple of mistakes, but I think Nevada was really happy with how he played in that game. And if he can continue that level of play against Utah State, maybe he gives the Wolfpack a chance in this game where they're going to come in as pretty lopsided underdogs.
So let's keep focusing on that aspect of the game, of the offense, and some of his targets, or some of the guys that have been there, maybe haven't been switching out. The wide receiver core that's been there this season, some of them made some pretty big plays. And it seems that Elijah Cook seems to be one of the main targets. He's had probably the most consistent games throughout the year. What about that wide receiver core? How would you describe them and some of the people there that we need to be watching for?
Yeah, I think they had underachieved, really through the first 5 games. I think they played really well against San Jose State, and that was in part because Malik was getting them the ball down the field, and he was really spreading it out. I mean, 9 different people caught a pass against San Jose State. You mentioned Elijah Cooks. He's been Nevada's most productive wide receiver. He's a 6'3" wide receiver, 6'4" wide receiver. Actually was on Nevada's Sweet 16 basketball team a couple of years ago, so a very athletic kid. Has 4 touchdowns this season. So he's obviously a weapon. To me, Romeo Doubs is Nevada's best wide receiver, has the most potential, and you saw that against San Jose State. He had 5 catches for more than 140 yards, that 75-yard touchdown. He had a concussion earlier in the season. He suffered that against Oregon, sat out the Weber State game, so he's gotten off to a slower start. Only a sophomore, was not a wide receiver until he came to college, but a ton of potential in that kid. And then Caleb Fossum is their slot receiver. Hasn't been nearly as productive this year than last year. But there are a couple of weapons in there. When you look at Doubs and Cooks, these are both 6'3" guys who have good speed and can get down the field. And Malik Henry seems to be unlocking a little bit of their potential. So those are the 2 guys to highlight. And then, when you look at the offensive production, Toa Taua, the running back, he was preseason All-Mountain West. Again, got off to a slower start. He had a thigh contusion, but Nevada fed him 34 carries. That was a career high against San Jose State, and he responded with a huge game. So I think you're going to see a lot of Nevada leaning on its stars a little bit more moving forward. They do like to spread the ball around, but I think against San Jose State, they said, the heck with this. Let's just get the ball in the hands of Toa Taua, of Romeo Doubs, of Elijah Cooks, and try and ride these guys to a better offensive performance.
You mentioned Toa Taua. It's a running back. He's had a great season so far. And some of the things that he's been able to do, some games where he's really stood out, and he seems to be like, as I've watched film on him, describing more of a power type back. Could that be the best way to describe him?
Yeah, very fair, I think. I mean, he's a guy who does not get tackled by the first defender. I mean, he does an excellent job of making guys miss, of taking contact and moving forward. He's had to do that because Nevada's offensive line is a below-average group. They did lose their starting left tackle, a 3-year starter, Jake Nelson, to a broken arm against Hawaii. So they've had to kind of move some pieces around. They have not played all that well this season, either in the run game or in pass protection. They did insert a new junior college center, Tyler Orsini, and he played pretty well against San Jose State and seemed to stabilize the line a little bit. The line did play its best game against the Spartans, but it has not been a strength, the offensive line. So Toa Taua has had to get a lot of yards that he's gotten on his own, and he's more than capable of doing that. The problem is he's not getting a lot of holes. When he does get holes, I mean, he's definitely a big play guy. He's probably Nevada's fastest back, but I would agree with you that he's more of a power back than anything else, and does a tremendous job of yards after contact. I mean, he did that last year as a true freshman when he was the Mountain West Freshman of the Year, and he's had to do that again this season.
And I know there's kind of an emotional, kind of happy to see Devontae Lee back into the mix after missed so much time with injury. Do you see the kind of him on a trajectory where he gets more touches, or is this pretty much Toa Taua? He is going to be the guy, and anything else may be piecemeal for anybody else.
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll give Lee some carries. I mean, he's mostly a short yardage kind of back. They use him out of a wildcat formation, and he was really, productive last year. He was also a true freshman last season, and he had 7 touchdowns on only 45 carries. So they used him a lot around the goal line. He had 2 touchdowns, last week and only 10 carries. So, I mean, he's definitely a guy who's going to be on the field, but I think he's going to be on the field more just when Nevada needs to get, either a short yard on 4th down or when they get around the goal line. I think Nevada has made the decision to kind of ride Toa Taua a little bit more. Now their traditional backup is Kelton Moore. He's a 6-year senior. He's a captain of the team. He's been a starter in the past. He was pretty banged up last week, so he didn't play. Didn't have any carries. So I think you could see a little bit more of Kelton this week. But I think it would be smart on Nevada's standpoint to get the ball to Toa Taua 30 times a game. He's not a guy who has taken a lot of carries. He's only had 3 games in his career where he's had more than 20 carries. 2 of those have been against San Jose State, so they've kind of been delicate with his carries. But I think they're at the stage in the season where they need to give him the ball because he's their most productive player out of the backfield. So I do think you're going to see a lot of Toa Taua with maybe a little bit of Kelton Moore and Devontae Lee when they need a short yardage kind of situation.
Again, we're talking to Chris Murray. He's with the Nevada Sportsnet, contributor for them in Reno, following the Wolfpack. And this is switching over to defense now for Nevada. This is a team that they've had some takeaways that they've been able to do. Daniel Brown's got 3 interceptions on the year. There was the big interception return for a touchdown by Austin Arnold last week. That secondary for Nevada, how consistent have they been against? They faced a pretty good passing attack last week from San Jose State. There's going to be facing another Love quarterback that likes to throw the ball. Yeah. How would you assess that secondary for the Wolfpack?
Well, it's not very good right now. San Jose State has improved a lot, but they threw for 400 yards on Nevada. Nevada struggled to stop the pass against Purdue. It struggled to stop the pass against Oregon. The secondary is the weakness of Nevada's defense for sure. The Wolfpack has actually been very stout in the run game, and when Coach Norvell took over, Nevada was the worst run defense in the nation. They made some gains the first year. Last year, they were one of the top 30 teams in the nation in run defense. This year, they're one of the top 30 teams in the nation in run defense. So that is the strength of the group, and the linebacking core is pretty solid. But the secondary, specifically the safeties, are really, really young. I mean, you're talking about 3 first-year starters at safeties, a lot of them moving from the offense to the defense to add some depth there. They came here as offensive players. So that is the area where Utah State can best expose the Wolfpack. I know Jordan Love has not gotten off to the kind of start that he was hoping to get off to. But I would not be surprised if Utah State has a big game in the pass game, if they get Jordan Love, a little bit more healthy as far as the statistics are concerned, because Nevada, when they have played better passing teams, has really, really struggled in that area. So that's the area, if I'm the Aggies coaches, that you pretty obviously target and try and take some shots down the field and make some big plays against a secondary that has given up a lot of big plays.
You mentioned that run defense, that front 7 for Nevada. Dom Peterson, 6 tackles for loss. Got a couple of guys that really seem to be having success getting into the backfield. Is that mostly led by a group of the linebackers, or do you see that what's happening on that defensive line really getting that push and creating opportunities?
Yeah, I think it's a combination. I think Don Peterson alone is a very, very good player. He was a freshman last year, moved up to a sophomore this season, and he's Nevada's best pass rusher, the best guy getting into the backfield by far. He actually was a menace in high school, but he's only about 6 feet, so he didn't get a ton of offers. It was really just Nevada and Syracuse. San Diego State did offer him, but then pulled it away kind of at the last minute. So he's a guy who's been productive his entire life. And he played for a really good high school, a state championship high school team in Southern California growing up. So he's a tremendous player on the line. But it really is the linebackers being used as blitzers and the 3-3 stack. I mean, Nevada uses I guess it's not too crazy as far as the Mountain West is concerned, because San Diego State and Boise State run a pretty similar scheme. But Jeff Castile is Nevada's defensive coordinator, who's defensive coordinator at West Virginia under Rich Rodriguez, and then at Arizona. He's a really good defensive mind, and he will get the best out of his group, and he really dials up unique blitzes with his linebackers. Gabe Sewell, to me, is the best linebacker at Nevada, so he's kind of the guy to watch out for there, and he's been able to move from the middle linebacker position, which he started his first 3 years at Nevada, to more of an outside linebacker position this year where he can do more of the blitzing. But those are the two guys to watch out for. Don Peterson, has taken over the role of best pass rusher on the team after Nevada lost 2 all-conference pass rushers last year in Corey Rush and Malik Reed, and then you need to watch out for Gabe Sewell, coming on linebacker blitzes, because they really do like to use him and his athleticism to try and make some big plays.
And I guess my final question about how this team is right now. This is kind of halfway through the season. Have they had a bye week? I don't know that they've had a bye week yet.
Yeah, it was prior to the San Jose State game. So
right.
They had 2 weeks. Okay. After the 54-3 loss to Hawaii. To really get ripped up and down by the coaching staff, be questioned by the coaching staff, and they started off really well against San Jose State. They were up 21 really early in the game, 24-3, and then had to hang on at the end with a walk-off field goal. So they should be fairly fresh, but obviously Utah State having the bye week, this previous week helps the Aggies a good deal.
And I guess related to that is the health of the team. Are there any that kind of a grind? There was a bit of a break that they did have to get a little bit more healthy, but are there guys that you would normally expect to see for Nevada that we won't see on Saturday?
They're in pretty good shape. So there are 2 guys who left the San Jose State game, and their situation for Utah State is unknown at the time. I would list them as questionable. Daniel Brown got hit in the head and never returned to the game, so he's going through the protocol. And then Halcia Sakona, who's a defensive tackle, a 3-year starter at tackle, had a knee injury and didn't return to the game. So those are 2 defensive starters for Nevada, who, if they're not playing, certainly is a hit to the Wolfpack. But outside of that, they have had a relatively healthy season as far as injuries are concerned.
And what's the sense with how Coach Norvell is received? I mean, he seems to be turning some things around there, and they seem to be a little more competitive than they were a few years ago. But is it trending in the right direction, do people feel like, or is there still some, unsettled opinions about what this coaching staff is doing right now?
Yeah, I mean, you look at the attendance figures, and I think a lot of people are still on the bridge. They're not fully bought in. I mean, the attendance has not been great the last couple of years. I think this has turned into a basketball town for sure. With Eric Musselman doing a terrific job, and then with Nevada investing and giving Steve Alford a fully guaranteed 10-year contract. I think the Wolfpack has put kind of more of an emphasis on basketball. So I think Jay Norvell has done a good job. You consider Nevada has the second lowest football budget in the conference. Jay Norvell is the lowest paid head coach in the conference. Nevada does not have an indoor practice facility, which every other cold weather school in the Mountain West has. And to go from 3 wins in his first season up to 8 wins in a bowl victory last year was good growth, but it hasn't necessarily gotten more people into the stadium. I mean, you opened the season against Purdue, a team that beat 3 top 25 teams last year, and you rally from 18 points down in the second half to win on a walk-off field goal, a 56-yarder, and you think that would stoke the enthusiasm, but it hasn't necessarily done that. And I think how Nevada closes the second half of this season will kind of dictate whether people are fully on the bandwagon, because that 4-2 record is good. But Nevada has 4 road games still left where they're going to be pretty decisive underdogs. So there's a good chance that they go something like 6-6, and maybe they're on the fringe of a bowl game. And that's why I think going out and competing well against Utah State is so important, because I think it will validate those first 4 wins. It will say, okay, this is a good team with Malik Henry at quarterback. This is a team that can beat the upper echelon of the Mountain West, which Nevada has not done really since it entered the conference. So, I think, there's some enthusiasm, but certainly not the same amount of enthusiasm that we've seen for Wolfpack basketball the last couple of seasons.
Well, we've seen that in Logan, where the product on the field improved quicker than the fans could react. Eventually, it caught on, but for a long time, it was a basketball school, and football had been bad for so long, it took a while. But talking about basketball, switching to that real quickly, just your opinion about the Mountain West preseason polls came out. Utah State was a unanimous number 1, which surprised me that this is a really good league. But Nevada, not even in the top 3. New head coach. Obviously, there was some great talent that has graduated and left. But what's the sense about this Nevada team coming into this next year?
I think people are excited, but there are just so many question marks. I mean, you lose your entire starting 5, you lose your entire coaching staff, and then you just wonder, okay, who's going to replace Jordan Caroline, Caleb Martin, Cody Martin, all of these guys that people were so familiar with. I think the Wolfpack did a tremendous job in getting Steve Alford onto campus as a guy who won 6 championships in the Mountain West in 6 years at New Mexico. It's a guy who individually has more Mountain West championships or even conference championships won than the rest of the coaches in the Mountain West combined. So he brings instant credibility. And there are some talented players returning. You have Jazz Johnson, who averaged double digits for the Wolfpack last year. You have Lindsey Drew, who was an all-conference caliber player before he missed last year with 2 hip surgeries and a torn Achilles. You have Jalen Harris, who's from Louisiana Tech, a transfer, was averaging 15 points per game there. You have Eric Parrish, who is a proven Division I player. He played at Akron as a freshman before going to a junior college and being a national, junior college All-American last season. So there is talent. Everybody's just in so different of a role, and there isn't a ton of depth with only 10 scholarship players. So it's a pretty thin line for Nevada to, beat teams above them in the Mountain West. I think putting Utah State at number 1 makes complete sense. I'm a voter in the AP Top 25. I have Utah State in my Top 25 preseason poll. They absolutely belong there. They deserve to be number 1. But really, you go from 2 to 7 or 2 to 8, and it's wide open to me. I mean, Boise State returns a lot of good players, but they weren't very good last year. New Mexico is crazy talented, but they underachieved last season. San Diego State lost 3 of its top 4 scorers, so there are question marks there. Air Force returns its entire starting lineup. Can it make a push? Fresno State, which was good last year, loses 2 all-conference players, in Braxton Huggins and Deshaun Taylor. So a lot of questions. I could see Nevada finishing anywhere from, 2nd all the way down to 8th in this league. But I do think it has the right coach in place to try and build off, or at least sustain what Eric Musselman built. And I think the players are pretty hungry. The guys who were sitting out last year, to say that this wasn't just the Martin twins, Jordan Caroline and Eric Musselman. We're going to keep this program at a national level. Now, that's harder to do than to say, but there is certainly a different motivation and passion just because they feel like they're being overlooked regardless of preseason polls, even people within the community who are like, okay, our great tenure with Eric Musselman is over. I think they want to prove all of those people wrong and say that Nevada can still be good and can still win Mountain West championships.